Have you ever caught yourself replaying an old regret so many times that it hurts just as much as the day it happened? A missed opportunity, a lost friendship, a dream that never quite materialized. More than 400 years ago, William Shakespeare diagnosed this exact human tendency, what psychologists now call emotional recall, in Sonnet 30. This poem is part of his famous Fair Youth sequence, but it reads quite differently from a traditional romantic ode. It feels deeply personal, like someone sitting alone in a quiet room, suddenly overwhelmed by memories they thought were long buried. What makes this sonnet remarkable is that it explores how memory is an active force. It doesn't merely passively recall old pain, it actively reopens and recreates the wound. Look at this opening text. Shakespeare writes, "When to the sessions of sweet silent thought, I summon up remembrance of things past." At first, that phrase, sweet silent thought, sounds incredibly peaceful. But there's a catch in the vocabulary. The word sessions is a legal term referring to court proceedings. Shakespeare is framing the speaker's mind as a courtroom. In his quiet moments of reflection, he is calling old memories forward, compelling them to take the stand and testify as witnesses to his past. And that peaceful reflection quickly twists into a cycle of anxiety. By line 4, the speaker admits he uses these memories to, "With old woes, new wail my dear time's waste." Old sorrows become brand new sorrows all over again. In this state, memory is no longer a passive archive. It operates as an engine, manufacturing fresh suffering out of events that ended years ago. The emotional stakes escalate in the next 4 lines. The speaker admits he can make himself cry, drown an eye, even though he isn't someone who normally sheds tears easily. He weeps because he is remembering friends who are hidden in death's dateless night. It is a haunting image. Night represents death, and dateless means it has no calendar. It is an endless darkness with no endpoint and no possibility of return. Notice the pattern of his grief. One painful thought triggers another. Remembering his unachieved goals leads to thoughts of lost friends, which leads to lost loves, creating a cascade of compounding sadness. These are not temporary setbacks or minor regrets. The speaker is dwelling on permanent, irreversible losses that drag him further into despair with every passing thought. As we move to lines 9 through 12, Shakespeare changes the central metaphor. The mind is no longer a courtroom, it becomes a financial accounting ledger. He describes calculating the sad account of 4 bemoaned moan. Essentially, he is running a complete inventory of every disappointment and heartbreak he has ever endured. Psychologically, he knows how irrational this is. These are grievances foregone, troubles that are already finished. Yet he chooses to audit them anyway. Look at this emotional balance sheet. Line 12 reads, "Which I knew pay as if not paid before." The original pain was unavoidable and already survived, but rumination forces him to pay the exact same toll a second time. By line 12, the speaker is entirely trapped. He is stuck in an exhausting cycle of retroactive suffering, crushed under the weight of an emotional debt he can never actually clear. Structurally, a traditional Shakespearean sonnet contains 14 lines, with a built-in pivot point called the volta, or the turn. After 12 lines of rising tension, the poem shifts direction. Here is the final couplet. "After all that mourning, the mood shatters with a single word. But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end." The effect is immediate. A simple thought of a dear friend is powerful enough to wipe out 12 lines of heavy, accumulated grief. The entire emotional trajectory of the poem hinges on this realization. It proves that deep despair can be broken by a sudden moment of genuine interpersonal connection. We need to clarify what Shakespeare means by the word restored. He isn't saying the dead are resurrected, or that lost opportunities magically reappear. Past mistakes remain part of history. Instead, the presence, or even just the memory, of a cherished relationship alters the emotional balance sheet of his mind. One bright point of connection is placed on the scale, and it outweighs the sorrow. Notice that the massive stack of losses hasn't vanished. Those painful memories still exist. but their crushing weight is negated by the value of that single connection. The sonnet takes us on a complete journey. It starts in the cold courtroom of memory, descends into an exhausting ledger of grief, and finally finds salvation in the thought of a single friend. The past is completely unchangeable. But the people we deeply treasure possess the power to change exactly how we carry that history.